Welcome back, dear viewers. You're still watching The Breakfast Show live on Nile TV International. It's now time for our first topic of discussion for today, and it's a very important topic as President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has addressed the 74th session of the UN General Assembly, and President Sisi has highlighted the need or stressed the need to end the Palestinian suffering, as well as also to bring an end to the conflict in that has gripped Syria and Yemen, and also President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has highlighted the importance of the sustainable development in the African continent. And to shed more light on the important remarks made by President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, we're most delighted to be joined here in the studio by Dr. Mostafa Wali, and he's a member of the Egyptian European Council. First of all, good morning, Doctor, and thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning to you.
Good morning, Doctor. First of all, let me ask you about how did you read the first, in general, the speech that was delivered by President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi?
Yes, I watched it all, and I found it to the point, and the themes were actually in the sequence of addressing the issues was great according to such big assembly, international, the most important international assembly, yearly assembly. And all the topics were addressed in genuine and frank and honest vision for solution, because most of them were problems actually.
Doctor, how do you see the speech of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi in light of emphasizing the respect for the principle of the national ownership of solutions?
Yeah. This is a very delicate issue, and it's a very important issue at the same time, because when you are talking about each country has its own way of solving certain problems, and mainly it is economic in this case. Most of the issues were, and when the international institutions, economic institutions, who contribute to solving problems, economic problems, always there will be a dispute about the certain demands of such institutions. Specifically, I mean, namely, are the World Bank and IMF. So the solutions or the recipe for helping the countries who are in need for this sometimes contradict with certain basic issues locally. So the people of each nation in general are more than anybody to know what is the best for them. So always, if it comes to compromise, and we are a very good case for this, this issue especially, it's how every country knows better about what's good for it.
Always.
There was also something that was really very, very important when Egypt asked for removing Sudan from the list of countries sponsoring terrorism. Well, definitely this is something of great importance. How do you read it?
It's very important sign, and recognition of this request or this demand will be very helpful, because at least it will contribute to the abating and debating and fighting terrorism in general, because any country accused or at least rumored to be sponsoring or helping terrorism is not good, neither for the country nor the neighboring countries. Sudan, even for us, is a neighboring country. What happened there actually deserve at least attention and care and help, because
support.
Everything is peaceful there, and the people there are now get together in terms, and thanks also to our contribution as brothers and also as the chair of the African Union. And the world have witnessed this. Let's hope things will carry on, and this will show, this request shows how keen we are of having our brothers in Sudan to get back to the normal course and development.
Yes. Dr. Wali, also President Fattah al-Sisi has highlighted the importance of the sustainable development in Africa. To what extent do you see the continent has the potential?
For years, actually, always, let's say for the last 10 years, always where it was looked to at Africa as a potential, when it talks about a continent, because a lot of other places, let's talk Asia continent, for example, have exhausted its development avenues and development potential successfully over the last 10, 20 years. And we have the success stories. It is now the turn for Africa. And the only thing, we talked about it once here even, that is, let's have the general situation across the country, the continent, to be ready and friendly for any positive development to be on the ground. This can never happen exactly unless these strifes and these problems, you know, safety and security problems are settled to good extent so that you can start. So a lot of the problems hindering this is, and also the president tackled it, and tackled it not only there, it was before in the last meeting he has concerning Africa and as a chair.
Yeah.
But I believe that it is a potential. There is a potential. The only thing is that, again, the will of the international community to help Africa. I always refer to this point, because if there is a will of the international community, those who are capable of implementing a lot of issues, you know, concerning the security, stability, solving the mediation, you know, mediation to solve the ethnic problems, all this. But still, if the answer is yes, it is potential there.
The speech dealt also with Egypt's initiative to hold the first edition of the Aswan Development Forum next December. So definitely this is a step forward also, or not only forward, but to continue with the sustainable development agenda.
I'm very impressed actually with this issue, and especially the venue. It's Aswan, and it's part of the dear areas of the north of Africa. It's in the heart of Africa, because actually this is what links us to Africa in this case. And choosing Aswan and in winter time, this will be great. And I hope as many sincere and capable international communities to help Africa will be there. So I think it's a big task, and I hope the president will be successful to get as too many important figures and institutions to attend this conference. And this will be a great event for us in Egypt. We have to care for this,
Yes. Doctor, also, how do you see the president's focus on the Palestinian issue and the necessity of bringing an end to the suffering of the Palestinian people, and also to bringing an end to the depletion of the human resources in the Middle East?
The first issue, it is a consistent attitude, consistent understanding from the Egyptian side so far, and was emphasized and was stressed upon since President Sisi took helm. And it is not new, his way of addressing it, because this is what we believe, and this is what the international community, to some extent, I mean, it was for a great extent some years ago when this Arab initiative was there, he was mentioning this. And I personally, and a lot of people...
And Egypt also has brokered several talks between the different Palestinian factions.
To diffuse some certain, you know, very, very flammable situation, you know, which means that we are serious in solving the problem, not like just giving lip service to this our brothers' situation there. But again, it's true. It depends upon how far they will get together in Palestine, you know, to make a real front, you know, getting together for giving the world what they want exactly, which we know, of course, but should be addressed in the best way. We are supporting them, I mean, as Arabs and as Egypt, number one, in this case. And he was addressing it, you know, according to the time and the situation, in the best way and in the right words, you know. We are seeking peace, peace settlements. I mean, the whole issue to be in peace, settled in peace, and in cooperation. And that's the future. And it was agreed before. So let's hope get back to the main course.
Yes.
Doctor, to what extent does the success of the multilateral international system can help also in the development of the nations?
Well, you know, we have heard about this, what they call this deal of the century. The topics of it is just, okay, we will get together and help, answering this in this sense. It is not only that. First, you should satisfy the humanitarian needs, which is not only just to live among, you feel this is your country. It is true, it's your country. We get together that we know and we agreed that we will have two separate states, you know, fully independent states, and get together. This is what was agreed upon. We should go after this. Then it comes the role of these multilateral and unilateral and bilateral institutions to make this a reality. But first, to settle the basis, because without agreeing on the basics, what will be the international, or let's say the international form of these entities, I mean the Palestinian entities in this case. That is the issue.
Also, one of the other aspects that were addressed by President Fattah al-Sisi, Dr. Mostafa, is the Libyan crisis and the suffering of the Libyan people.
Yes, yes. It's a pity, and also it's a pain, because when you talk Libya, you take our neighbors, you know, they're the closest neighbor, you know, and with long history of cooperation and friendship between the two countries. Across, of course, a very bumpy road over the last few years, last 10 years. But at the end, it's a crisis there. It's a real crisis. And imagine just one country where you have a city is fighting another city. A community there is against a community, other community there. The world can in one day, I mean, in one session, can get all this together and put the rules and say those who will not go out of it will be tackled. Simple as that. There was some trials of this kind of solution, but it didn't work. Up till now, it didn't work. So President Sisi was giving the alarm that this should not continue more than that.
Egypt also has a vision when it comes to Syria, talking about having constitutional entities or committees to be following. And I believe when it comes to the region, Egypt has a very wide and broad and good vision for each nation, especially when it comes to the international interference. This is the cause of many other problems and disputes. So how did you see this?
I see it I see this from the last 12 years. Egypt can. And I think the time they should start look at it right now. Those international communities, starting from the big umbrella of the UN and any other institution, that when have to do anything has to do with Syria, Egypt can play the best and the most honest role to help this problem. That to make it in a null shit or anyway, to make it globally global answer. Egypt can play the most important and honest role to solve the problem in Syria. Because along the history we had very good relations. Right now we have our Syrian brothers living among us, and we care for them. We don't get into politics, because this will be the solution according to the situation, which will be determined by a big international community decision that this is the role and everybody should agree for this. And Egypt can play the main role.
With the same part, actually, it was mentioned today that the president of the Washington-based Middle East Institute on Wednesday called for granting Egypt the leadership role to tackle the Middle East issues instead of the United States.
I didn't read this, you know.
So
you say it's just coming,
yes, it has something has to do with the international.
So it proved what I'm feeling, at least. Not. So thanks for telling me this. That's something. This institute is, you know, the think tanks have a big role in this. But when was that? When
on
was
Wednesday.
This? Sorry?
Yesterday.
Late, maybe. But anyway, that's good. Now, Egypt will play the role. Forget what's going on. We know what we are and what we can do. It's Egypt.
Yes. Also speaking about the efforts of the international community, Dr. Mostafa, to bring an end to terrorism that has gripped the region, what can be tangible actions or tangible steps that can be taken in order to bring an end to this phenomenon or this barbaric acts that are gripping the region?
Eradicating it once for all.
Yes.
Start with the following. Number one. Defaming, accusing, showing the whole world any of the following: those who are giving safe haven for terrorism, supporting directly or indirectly any hate speech, because it's the beginning, supporting or holding certain factions who are supporting themselves, the terrorism in its fierce and coward presentation. That's now it's the must, because otherwise it will be a drain. You put it here, then it comes there. So, and this is the role of the international community.
Yes.
Because they will be affected with it, it's true. And they have suffered from it. When I talk international community, those who have the weapon and can supply either directly or indirectly. That's why those who can work as safe haven, who can provide weapons and support and sheltering, So to expose them, that's what I mean, expose them. Yes. That is essential. Now it is the time, because some locations were eradicated now. You look what happened in Iraq. Some areas have already been demolished, have gone out with.
Yes.
In Syria, some areas. But now it's the turn to expose. This is a very important issue. How the world will feel secure. Because this is the plague of the last 20 years or 10 years.
Doctor, also the president actually addressed the climate summit.
Yeah.
And when it comes to climate change and environmental affairs in general, definitely this is something of this is crucial, for the African continent, especially when you are talking to the international community, because the most continent suffering from this is Africa, and we have nothing to do with it. We are not the one who are responsible for this.
Yes. To confirm what you say, imagine that those who are responsible, let's use the word polluting the world, is the biggest two industrial communities in the world. It's China and USA. Outside of Europe, they are contributing to more than 20%. I am interested in this issue, of environment long ago. And they are contributing for 20%. Look at Africa, it's nothing. Europe is 4%, imagine. And we are now, in Africa, is the most affected with. It's a pity, because just yesterday I heard about the desertification is back again in Africa, and drought is coming back. This is, I was hopeful, because sometimes for some time there was no drought in Africa, and famines, which we are familiar with through the last 4 decades or 3rd decade. But it's a pity it's now coming to be again desertification. So tackling the issues of the pollution, environment, will help, at least in the following: to maintain the situation as is, not to make it worse, and meanwhile, business which can be built on environmental projects could be useful, could be profitable business. Look, for example, for the solar energy projects. It's clean. When you have it, it's clean. And then you are combating part of the pollution due to fossil fuels. But at the meanwhile, you will employ hundreds of people to have a very big farm for solar energy, with all what it can bring with it, the chain of work. That's something. We had a very good case in Bimbani in Aswan, which is Africa. So such projects, if we can get the international community, especially the financial institutions, to get with us here in Africa, it will be very good.
Also on the sidelines of the UNGA, sir, there were the climate summit talks that were held, and also the president President Fattah Sisi has attended. How do you see were they fruitful? Were the talks fruitful, or do you think that more efforts need to be done?
Well, the last assembly tackling the issue of the environment in general was in Paris.
Yes.
And there was some declaration of Paris, Unfortunately,
it turned into a failure, and the
because we know
withdrew from this pact.
If you have a big power, influential power, talking economy, because that's the effect of economy. If you have such power, which is USA, to withdraw from this agreement, then you can imagine. The only thing, if somebody has something, then it should be settled. I mean, maybe they have some ideas or some reasons to be against this. Let's assume this. But it's only science who can prove this, because this is absolutely scientific issue. Yes. Some of it, just it's important, some of these issues, scientific issues, is actually, you know, to be proven across long time. Because you don't have precedents in history to refer to. I mean, the global warming, we couldn't detect it except just lately, you know, how hot was the world, I mean. Now, to get to reduce 2 degrees is something very important. It's a now fact. What's happening on the North Pole, in the Antarctica, is clear, you know. There are smelting, and there are increase in the level of the...
Yes. Dr. Mostafa Wali, member of the Egyptian European Council, we really, as always, really do appreciate your insights.
It's my pleasure.
And your presence on The Breakfast Show.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
And dear viewers, now we move on to a short break, and then we're back to resume The Breakfast Show live on Nile TV International.